This is Tom Dillon, the Lifetime Liberal, and today is Thursday, September 8th, 2016. And the title of this rant is, Hey, Mainstream Media and Morning Joe, STFU about the emails. I remember my dad he used to be really angry. I've had it up to here with your shenanigans and beat the crap. No. So, there's nothing to the emails. There has never been anything to the emails. The director of the FBI said it didn't even come remotely close to being an indictable offense yesterday. All of this is coming from the right-wing scheme machine and their normal situation where they come up with some type of right-wing contrived outrage of the day. Now remember, Kevin McCarthy, who was John Boehner's right-hand man after Eric Cantor got righted and got beat by someone who was to the right of him. All right, basically said over a year ago that they were using this email thing basically to take her down. There wasn't anything to the emails. They just knew that they could do it. So every time, and of course, right-wing watch, not right-wing watch, judicial watch, I guess what it is, the ones who are suing for the freedom of information, going to court and all this other stuff, they're not finding anything in there. They're just pretending that things that because of this, then because of this, then because of this, then this. So it's like, hey, this thing has about a 2% significance out of a scale of 1 to 100. It has about 2% significance. And they make it out like a 95. And then they get on the air and they're absolutely adamant that this is an outrage. And it goes on and on and on. And there has never been anything to Hillary's emails. It's all been just exacerbated, extrapolated, analyzed, and there's nothing there. There has never been anything there. I mean, if Hillary's email system had been hacked, yes, there would have been a much bigger outrage. It wasn't hacked. And how many emails did she have? I can't remember because they keep on increasing the number all the time. But what was it, like 30,000 emails or 10,000 emails? There are 3 of them that somewhere in there had a C marked on it, meaning confidential, but it really wasn't that big a deal, the stuff that was in there. And of course, to say confidential, you were supposed to have it in a much more elaborate way so that whoever was receiving that email would know it. So there's nothing there at all. So what happens last night on the Commander-in-Chief thing? Matt Lauer, complete dickhead, goes in and wastes 12 and a half minutes of time talking about the emails. And of course, you know what's really hard is defending yourself when you're already right all the time. You know, now doesn't make any difference what Hillary should be saying, and moving on. Just drop the shit, mainstream media. There's nothing there. There's nothing been there. It's shown an incredible amount of, how would I want to say, misogyny towards women in general. That you take something that Colin Powell did, that Condoleezza Rice did. How many emails did the fucking George Bush administration erase because they lost him, so to speak? They said they lost him. I think it was 5 million. When somebody wanted to get the Freedom of Information Act, to get all those emails on the stuff that was going back and forth in the lead up to the war. 5 million. Yeah. So again, we're talking about a minuscule amount of things. We're talking about something that wasn't hacked. We're talking about, it's just incredible that we still have to keep hyping on it. Now I know that for some reason it rings true with something, and yes, maybe Hillary should say a teeny bit more, let's move on. But remember that Donald has moved on about a lot of stuff. He doesn't want to talk about birtherism. He doesn't want to talk about his failed casinos in Atlantic City. He doesn't want to talk about the fines that he's had when he tried to make contributions in the early 90s, where he tried to get around election campaign finance law or whatever. He doesn't want to talk about any of that stuff. All right? But when Mika was on this morning, shut up. When Joe was on this morning, shut up. Get over it. There is nothing there. There has been nothing there. And of course, I will say that they did go after Trump. because he deserved to go after, because everything that came out of his mouth last night was basically made up on the fly. So when he basically said, why is Matt Lauer asking him to give us something about what he learned from the intelligence briefing when he's not even supposed to talk about it? And then Trump goes on to say, I could tell by the way that they were presenting it that they weren't in agreement with the policies of the president. Where did that come from? He made it up. All right? He makes it up all over the place, and no one calls him out on it. I mean, why? And of course, we know that Matt Lauer interrupted Hillary like twice as much as he interrupted Trump. Trump came out with some outright lies out there, and Matt Lauer didn't even call him on it. So this whole thing about the emails, let's just drop it. Let's move on. We have important things that we need to talk about. We need to talk about the minimum wage. We need to talk about global climate change. We need to talk about comprehensive immigration reform. We need to talk about taxing the rich. We need to have a transaction tax. We need to have the inherited wealth tax stay. Okay, we need to have sensible gun legislation. We need to accelerate an effort in terms of renewable energy. Accelerate it, even though it has been tremendously accelerated in the Obama administration. We need to work with our partners all over the world to get this humanitarian crisis in Syria under some type of control. And in some instances, or in some way, we may not get the result that we want to get. Even though we all really would like to have Assad out of there, if there's going to be peace and Assad's going to be there, what's going to be the determination? We have to come together in a long way. Possibly he'll be there for a transition, and then we'll have to get rid of him. I don't know the answers, but I do know that it's not going to be done by troops on the ground by the United States. And 30,000 troops is not enough. It would not be enough. Because, as I've said many times before, okay, wars are about geography. You're not going to create any safe havens. How are you going to create a safe haven there unless you have plenty of troops there to protect it? What about East Aleppo? What about the engineering? What about the water? What about the electricity? What about the road system? What about the stoplights? What about the laws? What about all of that other stuff? How is that going to come into play with Trump's ideas? None of this stuff is going to come into play. And of course, Trump proved very, very vividly last night that he doesn't have any idea what he's really talking about. And to say that he has 88 generals behind him, okay, let's say he has 88 generals and admirals behind him, but let's remember that these are the war hawks of these people, because they want to have unlimited, unending, as Bob Dylan used to say, the suffering is unending. They want unending war, because that's how they get their nut off, so to speak. Okay, they need to have war because it gives relevance to them. They think that the United States can and will and should always be the world's safekeeper, so to speak. We live in a different world right now. We're not going to go after China. We're not going to create a war with China unless we really have to. We're not going to put boots on the ground in the Ukraine unless we really, really have to. Those are terrible situations, and we need to rectify them, but we need to rectify them with all of our partners. And this concept that Donald Trump has constantly put forth is that he is the savior, he is the God, he is the one that can do all this for you. We have an immigration problem, I'll solve the immigration problem. We have a wall problem, I'll solve the wall problem. We have a Muslim problem, I'll solve the Muslim problem. We have an ISIL problem, I will solve the ISIL problem. He doesn't give, very simplistic, easy answers. Now he wants to increase the military a tremendous amount, and he wants to get rid of sequestration. How the hell is that going to happen unless you get the votes in Congress to do that? And how much do you want them? Do you want to have $100 billion increase in the defense spending? Then you're going to have $100 billion increase in all of the other agencies right now. And how much taxes are you going to increase to do that? Oh, we're going to do it with waste, fraud, and inefficiency. No, that's not going to happen. That will not happen. So a lot went on last night, but I really wish the mainstream media would just STFU about these emails. It's over. It is done with. Let's move on. Let's get to the things that are important. Besides the things that I mentioned, we also have to deal with education. We have infrastructure all over the place. We have a tremendous tremendous opportunity to increase our infrastructure spending because we can borrow money at next to nothing. But dickheads like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell are going to stop it. Very important election coming up. No way, shape, or form should we ever even consider Donald Trump remotely qualified to handle that office.